Hi everyone, welcome to Kakona Cricket Cast. I'm your host Pratham, and I'm joined by our other host Rohan. And today we're going to be giving our mid-match thoughts on this first test between England and New Zealand, played at the home of cricket, Lords. So Rohan, I want to sort of just ask you, what did you think generally of the match so far, and where do you think it's poised at the moment?
I think this match so far is the story of two players. One, Devon Conway, and two, Perera. Because I swear to God, England was going to throw this game away today. They were going to do it. We've all seen this England team do exactly that. Like, get themselves into a good position where they have a chance of actually doing something, and then do something unbelievably stupid, and then rely on either Joe Root or Ben Stokes to bail them out.
I see. You think the collapse is coming for England?
Well, now I don't think the collapse is going to happen.
Fair enough, because of Perera, right?
Yeah,
who's
exactly.
Also related to
like if England end up winning this match, he should be man of the match.
Yeah, Perera, absolutely, man, absolutely. And I mean, it's not like he's not related to like over like 1,000 people on Sri Lanka, because they all have the same Perera name as one of their names out of the 6 names that they have.
But yeah, no, I mean. I think we have to, but on the balance of things, yeah. I have to say full credit to New Zealand, but that's a little bit harsh. That's a little bit harsh on Devon Conway, who apparently is the entire country of New Zealand, because when you have guys like Kane Williamson, Tom Latham, and Ross Taylor, 3 of the best players at the position, right? Yeah. Opener number 3, number 4,
yeah,
and they combine for less than the second highest score.
Yeah.
That's not a great look.
Yeah, this innings was really anchored by Devon Conway, and
yeah,
of
course the magnificence of that is Neil Wagner, the greatest batsman, the greatest bowling all-rounder. We can have this discussion later. But the greatest bowling all-rounder that New Zealand has ever produced.
Yeah, he played some shots, dude, which
shots
looked better than Conway's. I was like, what?
I know. He played some shots that were like. I would not have been surprised if you said that's Kane Williamson playing those shots, except he's left-handed.
Perfect extra cover drives, and then he
hit a 6 over. Yeah, he hit a 6 to cow corner.
He launched broad for a 6 too. It was like,
it was just insane. It was like, what? How? Why?
Back to the match here. I actually think Latham gave them a bit of a decent start. That partnership, but I think they like in the case of Latham, Williamson, and Ross Taylor, they're all class players. They got starts, but they didn't really do much with it going onward. And then also,
I'd say Latham got a start. I don't think Taylor looked uncomfortable. But again, this is his first test match after that eye surgery, so he's probably just adjusting a little bit. And you also have to face Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad and Ollie Robinson and Mark Wood at Lords.
Yeah, speaking of Mark Wood, I think that's what really got Taylor's wicket, right? That was a good stat that the Sky comms were talking about, how his average against...
Wait, are you talking about Wood?
I'm talking about Taylor. I'm talking about Taylor.
Robinson, Ollie Robinson, yeah.
Well, I'm talking about Ross Taylor. Ross Taylor's part of the reason why I think he got out and looked so uncomfortable, to be honest with you, was because he struggles against express pace bowling. It's a known fact throughout his career. His average, the Sky comms were talking about this, his average of 2 deliveries that are over 140k is 24 in Test match cricket. That's not very good, is it? And Taylor, and now coming to Wood, right? Wood bowled an extremely fast, consistent spell of bowling on that first day. He took and ended up taking 3 wickets almost on the next day when he slowed down to bowl like his usual 90 mile per hour, 88 mile per hour kind of thing. But on that first day,
that spell, I watched that entire spell and I was shocked.
This was effortless. It was effortless.
Because honestly, I was expecting New Zealand at that point to get to 200, put on another 200 runs, get to 400 to 500 runs on the board, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't do that, and that's mostly because Mark Wood bowled a fantastic spell. I think that spell was six overs, 2 maidens, seven runs, 3 wickets. Which it's genuinely like if you're not impressed by that spell, you haven't been watching cricket.
Yeah,
it was sharp.
It was sharp. It's funny because he actually slowed down for that particular spell. The first day he bowled really quick, and I liked the hostility that he had. And I don't think he received the rewards he did, but his line was a little bit off, which is why we didn't take those wickets. Second, when he came back on the second day, bowled a bit more accurately, a bit slower, but still around 90 miles, pretty sharp, and took those 3 wickets and really, got that collapse going. And really, New Zealand, as you said, were restricted to 378 largely because of him and then the other man, Robinson, coming in and getting those 4 wickets. What did you think about Robinson today? There's a lot of stuff in the papers, and we can get to that as well. But just purely from a cricketing perspective, firsthand,
I think for a young man on debut, I think that was the sort of thing that you need, especially since England's going to go through a transition shortly, very shortly, right? This may be Jimmy's last full year of cricket. It's probably Stuart Broad's last full year of cricket. At the Test level. Jimmy could keep going because he is Jimmy Anderson, the ageless wonder. But he's slowing down. Like we saw it in this match. Yes, he had fantastic figures, but he also didn't really. He struggled when he didn't have the new ball.
Yeah,
which is a weird thing to say about Jimmy Anderson.
But part of it also is that even with the new ball, if we're being honest and being critical here, he kind of squandered it in the sense that he basically lacked the line, I thought, that to consistently challenge them in that corridor of uncertainty. And Jimmy's tactics as a bowler, especially in the last couple of years, has been that he tries to bowl back of a length or just short of a good length, and then he tries to sucker drive you for that fuller one, that swinging away or so forth, right? Yeah. And the problem on this pitch, this Lord's pitch, which played much more truer than people expected, had some more bounce as well, but largely didn't assist them with the seam movement that they were expecting, right? Partially because the grass was being cut off, the live grass, was that he struggled to get them out with that slower, that fuller delivery, because it came out as very floaty, right? So that's why Conway was able to drive him so consistently through extra cover.
The good thing about Jimmy, though, is that he did get a big wicket. He got Kane Williamson, who is, to be fair, his bunny.
Also the best batsman in this New Zealand setup, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
So, crucial wicket.
Crucial wickets. I'm not trying to be a dick to Jimmy or to Kane Williamson.
I think Robinson, coming back to him, right? What I was impressed the most about him was that he was able to generate more bounce than I expected. In county cricket, actually, he doesn't generate nearly as enough, and on a pitch which had some extra bounce in it, he was utilizing it well. His bouncer is well directed. He clearly was thinking and trying to set batsmen out, and I think he has a long career ahead of him, and I honestly look at him as a good option to take to for the Ashes.
Honestly, I take him to the Ashes, and I might even play him in the first Ashes ahead of Jimmy.
That's a pretty big statement to make.
But
I'd agree.
We also have to sort of talk about the other stuff that is going on. So obviously he made some racist, homophobic, and Islamophobic comments as a teenager. Now that doesn't excuse those comments; it just puts them in context. He was a teenager and he said stupid things.
Yeah, and also
those
part
things
of
are and to his credit, when that came out, he immediately apologized. He made a public apology. He released one through the ECB and he released one on Sky, and he looked genuinely shaken up over it. So I'm willing to cut him a little bit of slack on that. Right? That's my personal view, and you guys may have different views on that. But the group of people who I'm actually the most disappointed in are the ECB. Yes,
clowns. I'm just going to go straight and say clowns.
They basically leaked that they're going to drop him for the next match, which we all knew was going to happen. It's normal. That's what England does. They rotate out their bowlers, and that's normal. I'd argue in many cases that's a really good strategy. If you can do it, do it.
Although let's be honest, then they're dropping him after being the best bowler in this particular match, not because of
that, but
because
of this, and they're going to use this to probably ice his career for at least. We're not going to see him in the India series. We might see him in the Ashes,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that I'm really pissed off about, there are three things now that you brought up the ECB. First, how the hell did you not know about these comments? Because you, like, for the record, he's been in the squad for over a year now, consistently on the fringes. He's been on the A team. I do not believe or buy it for a second that you did not have any idea or any sort of checking or verification of these comments, especially in this day and age.
If someone on Twitter can find this,
yeah,
the ECB, which is what, like the third richest board in the world, can't hire a social media person to like scan their players' social media profiles just to make sure that this stuff doesn't come up.
Just give me a joke, man. I mean, it's a joke.
Like that's just, not only is that inexcusable, it's just kind of shows the incompetence of the ECB in a way. It's far worse than saying that, like, we're going to drop this guy because we don't want to have to deal with a social media issue, even though this guy has come out and made a public apology immediately after he was informed that these comments had come up, and look, genuinely shaken up about it. Now that's one thing.
I mean, the other thing.
The other thing is that, how do you not know this? You have been planning to have this guy in your squad for at least a year. He's been on your A team. He's been, as you said, problem. It's like, what are you doing?
No, but what makes it even worse is, okay, they didn't know. Okay, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that just a bunch of lazy clowns. That's one thing. The guy who they also put in the squad to replace him is a guy who was literally caught saying to another, like, a player of Asian descent, go back to your country 5 years ago, said something way worse, denies that he said it, even though all the evidence indicates he did. So somebody who's not apologetic for his comments and has been in the squad despite that.
Yeah,
and you're gonna replace him out.
I mean, like, it's not. I mean, this is the insanity of the ECB. It is better to never apologize, according to the ECB, for anything that is said on the field, because that's what that's what's gonna end up happening most likely.
I mean, Craig Overton is the guy we're talking about.
Craig Overton is who we're talking about here. But it's like, when you have, and this has to do with, like, the whole culture thing, that especially because we know that the ECB is so heavily dominated by former Yorkshire players, and what has come out of Yorkshire in the last few months really suggests that there are some significant culture issues in that dressing room.
Yeah, some discrimination.
Like, when you have Cheteshwar Pujara, who, I mean, like, he goes by Che. You can call him Che. You can call him Puji. You can call him all these other things, right? That he's generally speaking okay with.
Yeah.
And of course, they choose to call him Steve. It's not like they don't know that Pujara has other shortened forms of the name that he will respond to, and I don't want a white knight for him or anything like that.
Yeah, it's a minor thing, but it just gives you
it's like, why are you doing this when you have guys like Moeen Ali needing time away from cricket because of mental health and abuse that he's received on the field?
Yeah. It costs the administration in a very negative light.
No.
I do want to get to the match though, because, you know, like, there's if we spend the time just shitting on the ECB and the administration,
if we spent the rest of this podcast shitting on the ECB, we would have accomplished nothing, and the ECB would still be as good as they are now.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a waste of breath. I'm just going to say that they suck, and they're handling this poorly. And they're unfairly putting a lot of pressure on a very young player making his debut.
Yeah.
And who was, by the way, their best bowler. He bowled the same amount of overs as Jimmy. Took 4 wickets at 267.
Most economical instantly. And he bowled well, man. And I think him and Mark Wood make a good combo for that Ashes. You throw in Ollie Stone there, who's not playing in this match. You throw in...
And Jofra.
Yeah, and there's even Saqib Mahmood, who's been
carrying it up. Yeah, I mean, like, again, those are the guys that you're going to have to rotate in and out of the squad.
Yeah, and you've got
to get fresh legs.
Yeah, and that allows them to genuinely go with the pace and bounce they need, and with some accurate bowling and some slight movement, they can rattle the Aussie batsmen. Especially because we saw the Aussie batsmen are vulnerable against that Indian series, right? Like, you can bowl, the
Indians weren't particularly. They weren't bowling as quick as Mark Wood, and they didn't have a guy who could really get bounce like Ollie Robinson or Mark Wood could.
Yeah, and it's a really good point. But yeah, coming back to the match, right? I think Yeah, the collapse. Obviously, Wagner played out of his skin, got them to, I would say, a score of 20, 25 above par. I think this is a 350, 400 wicket, so it was about par, I would say, around that range, but above par for the 350.
I mean, in all of this, we're still neglecting the fact that Devon Conway has broke pretty much every record you could break.
Yeah, he broke one
debut.
of our favorite Indian players, Saurav Ganguly's record for the highest debutant century at Lords. And I mean, glorious batting. I've always rated Devon Conway. I think he should have been. The sad thing about him is he's 29, so he's probably not going to get to play more than 8 years, give or take.
At most.
Yeah, and he's just the finished article. And I read back on his story. I mean, it makes sense. Like Jameson, he needed time to get prepped and so forth, but very strong driver, especially cover driver, very elegant. Plays those like Sangakkara to some extent. Has this pull shot that has an air of dismissiveness, and he just gets on top of the ball, right? On the line of the ball. It's fantastic. Very.
I try to remember who it was on the comms. They were talking about like he plays the pull shot the way it should be played, not sort of like on the back foot. He says you get on top of the ball and you pull it on the front foot.
Well, I mean, it's sort of a swivelly sort of thing, and it's just his balance is so perfect, right? His balance is so perfect. I'm so glad he's going to be here, and he's probably going to be permanent choice opener from going onward.
Yeah,
I don't.
Him and Latham, that's like as India fans, which both of us are, full disclosure.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting matchup between Bumrah and Ishant versus those two in the first 10 overs. That's going to be. Because you have to get those two guys out, and then you have to get the guy behind him out, and then you have to get one of the top run scorers New Zealand's ever had out.
Yeah, and
then you have to get Henry Nicholls out, and then you have to get BJ Watling out. Yeah, then you can start talking about trying to win this match.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a Murray's row in a way. But I think it's interesting because I learned a little bit more about Joe Root's captaincy and the way that he tried to plan for Devon Conway in this match than before, and I've been very critical on the show of Joe Root's captaincy. I think he's a very defensive, negative captain, often not very tactically astute. His man management is good, but leaves to be desired. Some things to be desired, as the Moeen Ali situation in India would prove. He actually did a decent job in this match.
I think that's a fair thing, because I think he did I'd go further. I think that he did a pretty good job.
It was very proactive. What I liked was he didn't settle for one plan. He didn't let the game drift, right? Especially with Conway. When he saw Conway was scoring runs, it didn't work in the end because Conway played a magnificent innings. But, having, a leg slip in at one point to try to step the flow.
That's an interesting thing. I think that's a new thing that's come into vogue, especially I think after the India series, because a lot of teams realize that batsmen nowadays will sometimes try and play shots that go around the corner because typically teams don't put a man there. So if you put a leg slip or a leg gully there, which India and Australia began doing, in England to an extent began doing, to give Joe Root some credit, he may have come up with the strategy on his own. It takes away that scoring area.
Yeah.
Even if you don't take a wicket from that area, it just removes that from a scoring area and it adds risks to shots, hook shots, and just kind of glance it behind.
And it allows the bowlers to bowl a bit straighter as well, right? Because they don't have to be worried about being tucked in for a leg glance or, being, flicked off the pads.
And of course, that brings in all three modes of dismissal from the bowler. You get LBW, you get caught, you get and you get bowled. If they miss, it's a wicket.
Exactly. His field settings to Wood were also pretty good, fairly aggressive, even at latter stages of the match. If there's one complaint I would say, he still doesn't know how to manage his fast bowlers well enough. Like when Wood was in that spell, right? He gave that very last over of that spell, he gave away 8 runs and looked a little bit, wary. He needs to realize that with guys like Wood, with like Joffre and so forth, the max you allow them to bowl, even if they're taking wickets, is 5 overs, because you have to conserve them, right? Like fast bowlers like that need to be protected with a cotton wool, if you will, right?
I get that. I would only offer one thing. If they look like they're just locked in and focused 100% on bowling, then you let them bowl a little bit longer. But you keep that you just shorten their chain. If they start trying to go faster, you just not if they start going faster. If they start going for a lot more runs, then you pull them out. I didn't have that many complaints about that spell. My main complaint about Joe Root's captaincy was Ollie Robinson, which had to do with the fact that he pulled him out when he looked like he was about to get that fifer, and ended up getting stranded on 4, which would have been a nice way to end your first test in your first innings.
Yeah, and Broad dropped a catch off him, which would have given.
Oh God! This has been a disaster class for Stuart Broad. I think this entire series, this match so far.
But coming to England's first innings, I thought Burns played very calm, very composed. It's good to see him getting runs. I rate him as, for England 80s cricket fans, I rate him as sort of an inferior version of Graham Fowler. And what I mean by that is the bloke can play off the back foot and square the wicket really well. He has a very idiosyncratic stance, as we all know. Just that back lift all the way out there. All the movements. It's very irritating to look at, admittedly, from a viewer's perspective, but it works for him.
It's effective. And that's all that matters in Test cricket.
Yeah.
If it works, it works.
Yeah, and it worked today. He played very organized, calm. He took on Neil Wagner, him and Root forced Neil Wagner to actually start bowling fuller and bowling more line and length after the bouncer ploy for Wagner.
I have an interesting thing I want to talk about here.
Yeah.
I think that Kane Williamson sort of misapplied Neil Wagner in this match. That's
how so?
Because Wagner's great skill is his bouncer, right? He bowls more bouncers than anybody else on the planet. He bowls them better than anyone on the planet. You don't score off his bouncers. You don't.
They're very annoying.
You don't survive long under that bouncer barrage. But when you look at it, right, and this is the most bizarre thing. When you look at his figures for the day, which was yesterday, our time, you see he bowled 10 overs. He didn't really bowl all that many short pitch balls. He didn't really start getting into the heads of the English bowlers, the English batsmen.
I mean, he tried. It was just
he tried, but again, the fields that they were setting.
Yeah,
he had 3 slips or he had 3 slips or something like that, or 2 slips in the gully. It's Neil Wagner. We all know how Neil Wagner's going to bowl.
Yeah.
Just bowl that way. Don't try to overcomplicate things, because he's a bowler that is very uncomplicated, and his skill is that he's going to bowl 5 balls in an over that are going to be short pitched or back of the length, and that's going to get you in the ribs. That's going to get you in the hips. He's going to bowl 1 ball that's going to be full, and it's going to swing in and get you in front of the wickets.
Yeah, LBW or a bowl.
LBW or bolt, right?
Yeah, I think.
You don't need to set that complex a field. Just set the standard field that you've been setting for the last 2-3 years. It's been working. There's no need to reinvent the wheel here. It's not like you're... And again, we've seen him do this to really good batting lineups. Australia and India have had this. Pakistan has had this issue, where he just comes in and he just peppers you.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see what you're saying, right? I think Wagner also had a no-ball problem. It was just not in rhythm. And honestly, the one other guy who wasn't in rhythm and kind of disappointed me was Jameson. Jameson looked a little bit stiffer when running into the crease. And I know he's not necessarily has the most fluid actions possible, but he just looked like he was... Maybe it's just trying to acclimatize to the conditions. It definitely could be that. But he looked...
Also, his first time playing at Lords, so...
Yeah. But, in that preview, I mentioned how it would be really advantageous for him because he could have that delivery that, sort of darts
the McGrath delivery.
Yeah, the one that darts in without trying, just the natural variation of the slope, right? But he looked a little bit out of sorts. I think, that partnership between Root and Burns is very reasonable after those early 2 wickets. He did bowl a good delivery to Sibley. Sibley kind of has been looking a little bit out of sorts, but I rate the guy. I think he'll come good. Yeah. And then Crawley's shot was really poor, right?
But this, and I think that's a little bit harsh on Zach Crawley. I think a lot of credit needs to go to the fact that Tim Southey, who's one of the smartest bowlers on the circuit,
he set that up.
Set him up he had no chance.
I mean, he set him up, but it's the first 10 deliveries that you've.
Oh yeah. Right? I mean, yeah.
To drive at a ball that's like its 7th stump full wide swinging.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it was a good
to be
job.
fair, he had been setting him up for all 10 of those deliveries. He knew exactly how he was going to get him out, and he got him out that exact way. He said, "Okay, fine.
Yeah,
So just push you back, push you back, push you back, push you back, and then I bowled
and
that
throw
ball
the sucker
that looks really wide, so that you can come out and just really have a slog at it, but it's actually going to go right to the keeper."
Well,
so
yeah, play an airy fairy cover drive, get out, right? It worked, but I think it's a good stabilizing partnership, and really overall, I think this match is at an evenly poised situation because of the day out due to rain. We could actually see a draw here. I think for England, obviously the operative, way to go about things is they need to make sure that this partnership goes on. One of these two at least gets a century. Somebody like Pope and Lawrence can come in, play a little bit more freely, and they can get to that sort of 350, 400 score. If they get par, I think by the time that'll happen, you'll probably get a draw going on. For New Zealand, the way that they can force the win here is if they can have an England collapse, and England get bowled out for something like 200, 250 odd.
Yeah. And that's going to rely a lot on Southey and Wagner coming in and really doing the yeoman's work and getting
I think Jameson's probably even more important, right? Because
Jameson is huge, but I think I have a suspicion that Jameson may be much more effective in the second innings, not the first.
That could also be the case.
Because this pitch is good. This pitch is going to start becoming too paced. That's how I'm reading it. I've seen some balls already start staying low and some balls coming up.
Yeah.
We've seen Bracey. We've seen BJ Watling, who has been one of the most consistently good keepers in the world. Just struggle to keep the ball in front of him.
Yeah.
So I think this wicket is going to become too paced, and you don't want to be batting last.
Yeah, having that beanpole bounce with the inconsistent bounce, it's going to exaggerate it. I agree with you entirely. But yeah, man. So guys, that's our thoughts. Let us know in the comments below what you think. And we will be coming back for our final thoughts on this particular match in a couple of days' time. And we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Yep. See you guys.